Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. In a previous video that I made, I was talking about the best gameplay settings. Well, after 15 hours of playing around with these settings, out of 125 hours that I have on INZOI, I can now go ahead and tell you guys the correct settings for your control city status. Now, I do want to stress that the changes that you make inside of this panel will not be reflected immediately. After playing around with these settings, I can confirm that it takes between 2 to 5 in-game days for your changes to take effect. What we're going to do is we're going to go through each and every one of these, and I am going to explain why I have set them that way, and we're also going to look at the city report as proof that my settings work. We're going to start off with positive and negative emotion control. This one is already explained for you, where it says that it affects the duration of positive and negative emotions. So when it's high, it increases your positive emotions and it decreases your negative emotions, whereas when it's low, it increases your negative emotions and it decreases your positive emotions. Since I've set this on highest, I've noticed that my ZOIs normally have more positive emotions than negative ones. And if they do have negative emotions, the negative emotions do not last for a long time. If you put it on medium, I'm assuming that the time frame that it takes to have both positive and negative emotions will last a little bit longer. So if your ZOI is feeling uncomfortable or if they're feeling depressed, it will last a little bit longer. Whereas because I have mine on highest, they do not spend a long time in a depressive phase, or they do not spend a long time in their negative emotions. For civic consciousness, this affects the success rate of your karma interaction. Now I'm going to explain why it is on the lowest. I have put civic consciousness on the lowest because I have conversation karma negativity on medium. ZOIs have the opportunity to do negative and positive emotions and positive conversations. My positive conversations are set on the highest, so they will always prefer to do positive interactions over negative ones. My negative ones are on medium, so that in the event they feel like doing a negative conversation, they can do it. However, I have put the civic consciousness on the lowest because it means that the karma success will be low. Meaning that if my ZOI was to, for instance, steal something, it wouldn't affect their karma. That's what that means. Now we're going to move on to my relationships, where we have friendships, romantic relationships, business relationships, family relationships. You're probably wondering why these are on the lowest. These are on the lowest because I found it extremely just overwhelming how fast ZOIs were gaining relationships. I wanted to have a long time before becoming friends with someone. And after all these hours of messing with this, I can confirm that this takes a long damn time. I can tell you without a fact that it takes a long time. And just to show you that it takes a long time, you can see that out of all the ZOIs I have within my game, which is quite a lot, 34 of them became friends. This right here, this statistics graph, just kind of shows you. And as you can see, the number of ZOIs who became friends, you have 21, then it dropped down to 16, then to 28 because I was messing around with my settings. So if you look at the graph here, you can kind of see when I made changes to my settings and the difference between them. Went from 25, changed the settings again, it went down to 19, then it went up to 25, went up to 32, went back down to 18, went up to 28, and went back to 34. And then ZOIs in a mutual crush, as you guys can see, around this time my settings were extremely high, but now as you can see, only one ZOI is in a mutual crush. And when it comes to the ZOIs that cheated, you can kind of see when I was tweaking around with settings again, and when I was tweaking around with settings when it comes to relationships, romantic relationships, business relationships, family relationships. Just looking at your city report, you can see all of this stuff. I am sorry, but I'm currently studying statistics in university as well, so this is really important. All right. So now we come down here to conversation, karma, positivity, as I've explained before, the Zois, will always choose to do positive interactions versus negative ones. But in the event that there is one Zoi that decides he wants to do something negative, it is there. However, it will not affect his karma because I have civic consciousness set to the lowest. When it comes to city sanitation is the rate at which Zois and furniture become dirty. I have set it at the highest, and the highest means that it will always be clean. Not always be clean, but the time that it takes between cleans is much longer. So in my game currently, my Zois only clean their homes once a week. This took approximately 5 to 6 in-game days for me to see this change starting to take effect. And if you scroll down here, you can see you're not really going to see this particularly in here. Now we go down to fire prevention rate and appliance durability. I've set this on the highest. When your fire prevention rate is on the highest, it means that you will not have any fires in your game, and you can see that by my statistics graph that shows number of items damaged by a fire is literally 0. Car accidents that occurred, as you guys can see, there were a couple of car accidents that occurred. I have no control over that, but number of Zois that were arrested by the police is a 0, and that is because of my city safety being on the highest. My city is very safe, so Zois do not do things to get arrested by the police. And I think city safety, conversation, karma, negativity, and civic consciousness plays an important role in the statistics that you get here for the number of Zois that get arrested by the police. Moving on, we go down to our health level. My Zois literally used to get sick all the time, and that was because my settings were right here. Once I moved my settings to the highest level, my Zois do not get sick anymore. I literally don't even need to have the emergency kit out because my Zois do not get sick. I have set it on the highest. It is nice when your Zoi is sick and you can go ahead, but this game is a little bit I don't like how often they were getting sick, so I set it on the highest, and now my Zois do not get sick. Dream occurrence rate, as you can see, is on the highest. And if you go down here on my statistics graph, you can see now that there are quite a lot of dreams that are being experienced. You have it was on 13, but now it's starting to go down to 8. Bad dreams was on 13, but these settings are going to go up. These statistics are going to go up because I recently made changes yet again to my control city status settings. So you will, if you come in here and check your city report, you will see your statistics, you will see them go up, and as the more you play, this will become a lot more information here, and you'll be able to see the graph, you'll be able to see the changes being made. I am really glad that they reflect these changes gradually rather than doing them immediately, and I'm going to tell you why. When you start up your game and you come into these settings, your maximum population is on medium. Now, if they were to drastically just be like, okay, if I was to set this up to highest and then they just decided, okay, immediately I'm going to put your maximum population on high, you can just imagine how your computer will freaking stutter and scream, especially for people that have a lower end computer. It would basically cause your computer to crash maybe, because maximum population, if like for instance you had 20 Zois in one area and I turned on maximum population, if it was immediate, I would be then adding 140 Zois into an area. So you can imagine how slow your computer would get by applying this effect immediately. I noticed that when it comes to maximum population, it took 10 to 15 days for me to actually see more and more Zois populate the areas. So for instance, if I was to go down to Muscle Beach right now, there's a lot of people on the beach, there's a lot of people at the amusement park area, and there's a lot of people just kind of walking up and down the street, as well as the maximum vehicle count being high. So there are more traffic jams, there's a lot more cars driving around in the city, up to around around 2 a.m. in the morning, you can still see cars, just kind of, the traffic is just really high, and I kind of prefer it that way. I really just like the population density of my world. So these are the settings that I have in my game. These are the settings that I have gone through, and I guarantee you guys, if you want, you can go ahead and you can take screenshots. You can set your game to be like mine if you want to, or you can mess around, but I'm just explaining that these are the settings, and I'm explaining how the settings work. I've also gone through the city report, which is very important. You can go ahead and click your statistics graph, and you can see the changes that were being made. As you can see, a lot of my ZOIs here, 15 of them actually died, and these ZOIs died, and I'm going to tell you why they died. They died from starvation, and I'm going to tell you why they died of starvation. They died of starvation because initially when I went into my settings, I set my simulation to be the autonomy to be off. And I thought that by autonomy off, it meant autonomy for your individual ZOI, but no, it means autonomy for all ZOIs within your world. And so ZOIs were not doing things, they were not bathing, they were not eating, they were not doing these things unless it was like on the very last drop of a button that they needed to do it before they died, and some of them will just end up succumbing to hunger and dying. I remember running across a certain family with the last name Williams, and when I went to look into their home, it was extremely filthy. Nothing was clean. Their clothes were all dirty. The kids were going to school in dirty clothes. There were dirty plates on the counter. They were not eating. The ZOIs were just walking around acting like they're dying, and I think 2 members out of that family ended up passing away because of my settings. So you do want to be very careful about some of the settings that you have in your game, and just remember, there's also one thing that I want to point out is that if you are jumping between family members, if you're jumping between ZOI families, please be mindful of how long you spend outside of the current family that you are playing. If you don't want them to have relationships and stuff, I don't know how you're going to do that, but if you click that little autonomy thing, please make sure that if you're jumping out to another family that you click that back again, because your ZOIs will just stick around until they die. Make sure you change their outfits before the season changes, because they will die of a heat stroke. I've had my male ZOI die multiple times of a heat stroke, and no matter how I would try to go back into my autosave, he just kept dying. So yeah, you just want to make sure. Also, you want to make sure you don't take too long outside of the family that you're currently playing, because they still continue on with their lives. They still do things. And I learned this because I was playing with my self ZOI and my fiance self ZOI, and by the time I came back around to playing them, they already had 2 children. And then there were a lot of other ZOIs around the world that were pregnant, and it was just a lot of ZOIs pregnant in my world. I don't know who was knocking them up, but it was just a lot of ZOIs that were pregnant. I don't know what was going on. But anyways, I hope these settings may have been helpful to you. I hope they were helpful to you, because these settings are settings that I can back my money on. I could back my money on these settings, because I played around with these settings just so that I could make this video, just so that I could prove myself wrong from my previous video. So this video is very, very important. I really hope that you guys enjoy the video. I really hope that you guys check out the video. Leave a like if these explanations may have helped you. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. What are you doing? What are you doing? Over here we help each other out, baby. Stick around. You're gonna want to stick around, because I got a lot more to tell you guys. All right. Anyways, I want to thank you all so much for coming by, checking out my channel. Let me know what you think in the comment section of my video down below, and as always, I will see you all next time. Bye guys.